Hey everyone, I'm Aaron Potratz.
And I'm Nathan Hawkins.
We are the Shrink Think Podcast.
Baby.
Enjoy the show. Tracking. Hey everyone, welcome from Flyboy Brewing in Tigard, Oregon to the Shrink Think Podcast. We are recording video, and it's quite a bit of a different setup here. It's pretty exciting. There's a lot of people here. This is a place we always come to Thursday after work, and where all the magic happens for all the ideas for this podcast.
We actually sit right here.
We sit at this table that is reserved specifically for us.
I usually don't sit like this though. We're like
no, he
cuddling.
usually sits this close to me.
Actually, don't.
And then he gives me a massage, and I loosen up. By the end of the night, I'm like, I feel so much better.
That's cringy.
With a spicy margarita and Nathan's massages, I'm golden by the end of the evening.
Never brag about that, but some people might want to do it.
They might, yeah. We are super excited today. If you didn't know, right now we're recording our 200th episode of the Shrink Think Podcast. We started in September of 2020 during COVID. We're like, COVID sucks, let's do something cool. So that's what we did. Let's start a podcast.
Yeah, it's crazy. I have to say it is weird being down here, and on the other side of this camera, right over there, is my family staring at me.
Awkwardly.
It's kind of, and also that person almost lost their lung that just walked by here.
Never a dull moment on the Shrink Think
Never.
Podcast.
You know what?
We might
as long
have
as somebody doesn't vomit, we'll be all right. Not on camera. We won't do that for you.
No, not at all.
Somehow edit it. We had some ideas what we were going to talk about today, and I've got to be careful on this mic because it's set up different, so Aaron's constantly going to be, hopefully does not smack me, but it's not impossible. So one of the ideas we had was to just talk about some of the shows that we kind of stuck out to us, that some of the moments, some of the things we've heard for feedback. And there's been a lot of feedback, actually. There's been a lot of people that have talked about things for us. We almost got food that wasn't ours just then. That was awesome. So I'm trying to think off the top of my head now because the food actually made me think twice. Aaron, what is your favorite episode? Do you have one?
This is like Nathan's worst. His like ADD, like everything happening. Oh no, what am I doing? I'm recording podcast. Wait, I'm drinking a beer. Wait, there's my family. Wait, there's food happening. Somebody's coughing up a lung. Oh wait, there's people we know. What's happening? It's Mayhem.
I need a bug zapper to bang all the little bad things out.
No, what you need is one of those cones that goes over the dog's head that you can't see anything. All you can see is like the microphone. You're like, okay,
my
focus.
Word. A cone. A microcone.
Okay, so what's the question?
What, if any, is your favorite episode, or maybe a memorable moment?
A memorable moment. Okay, I got a couple, probably because when we are in the studio and we are, wildly successful in my office studio, where I move my chairs around. Usually we're there, but a couple of times we have been somewhere else. Like one of the times we were in Las Vegas recording with the guys. And then we also had, one of our guests was really just kind of a surprise to me. I knew it would be awesome. He was recommended, I think, from Gordon Brewer. But that ended up being a memorable moment. So I guess I would say one of them would be just doing that whole like round table thing with the guys, Connor and Uriah, Ernest.
And that episode was on men, part 1 and part 2.
Yeah,
on being men.
On being men. Yeah, because we are men and we know a thing or two about being men.
I've been a man for my whole life. Even when I was a boy, I was a man.
There was a moment. I've seen a couple of moments where you may not have been, but for the most part.
2-3 seconds here and there.
Yeah, right. There was a moment in college where there was a spider on my mouse that I almost touched, and I was like, "Woo!" That was definitely a girl moment. So yeah, that was that round table thing. I think was pretty awesome because I think it gave us the idea of like just how powerful this voice is and this microphone for getting connected to other people, the different ideas, experiences that they've had, and how we can take all of that through this channel and spread it to our listeners. And we had a lot of great feedback from that. So I'd say that was one of them, but I think my top moment was Pavel. I can't remember how to pronounce his last name.
His last name.
Something.
Is he Swedish? Is that?
Yeah. But it was
Yeah.
the episode where he was. We were getting to know him, and it was over Zoom, and he was telling us that he had been in an accident with his wife, and she was paralyzed from the neck down, and he still takes care of her. I just messaged him just this last week, and it's just it was incredible to me, I guess just the honesty and the bravery, and also just the humility, and how he took all that negative stuff and was able to focus on the thing that was the most important to him, which was love. Like, out of all of that, like loving people, caring for people, how to do that well. And actually, I gotta say, okay, I'm glad we're talking about this, because there was something that you said that stuck out to me in that episode that I've said to a lot of people ever since.
Holy moly.
I know, it's one of those like, oh no, what did I say?
I say things.
Whenever my clients tell me that, like, oh, you said something last week that stuck out to me, I'm like, oh no, what was it? And it's never something that I remember. I'm like, I said that? Okay. But you said, like, in the context of, like, when somebody's hurting, like his wife was in the hospital or recovering, and he was at home, and like people had stopped really like coming around. Like, they gave him some food and company for like a week, and then people just stopped coming around. And so he felt really alone. Or people were telling him like, oh, well, it'll get better, or you'll be okay, or whatever. And you said something like, it's difficult for people to be in those kinds of situations because it's uncomfortable and they want to fix it and make it better. But what you said was, people have a problem where they feel alone with the pain, or they feel alone in this difficulty, and just being with them solves the alone problem. And I was like, dude, you're like brilliant. Like, where do you think of this stuff? Like, just your perspective, I thought was just fantastic. So anyway, that was a memorable moment for a lot of reasons, but it's impacted me. Clearly, it's stayed with me, and I've shared this with a lot of people. So I don't know. Those are mine.
Well, thank you. I do remember that as you're saying that. It's always interesting what people remember, when they're saying what they're saying, or like when I'm saying what I'm saying. It's funny too, in therapy, you say something that there's a bunch of things that go on in the counseling. We've talked about this in a few of our episodes, where we think we've just killed it. We've said something that's been like, oh yeah, you remember that one, that's going to be awesome. And then
their life is going to be changed forever.
Yeah. And then later they come in and they like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like you
said something else at the end of the session. I'm like, what? I threw that out there like before we walked out.
I don't even know what you're saying. I think if I go to some of my favorite episodes, I think so. Oh, here's a fun fact about Aaron. He does not listen to these episodes. Like,
oh my gosh,
he will not hear his voice.
No. Okay, to be fair, I have listened to some, and originally it was I didn't want to hear my voice, but then I got over it. I was like, okay, it's not bad. I just still don't listen to the episodes.
I just still don't. I listen for inspiration.
Right.
Because I listen to try to think, not inspiration of myself. That sounds really bad.
Wow, I'm so inspirational. I just listen to my episode.
I'm so great.
I'm inspired by me.
It's a narcissistic trait. I think what did I say? What was I trying to say? Did I actually say it? Did I accomplish what I think I want to say? What the message is. And then I think, what else needs to be said that we didn't say? Kind of a thing. So that's why I listen. But I think this is going to sound so weird, but what I'm struck by is that there's a genuineness that comes off. I'm thinking this is actually believable. And I'm sitting there going, well, I do believe this.
Well, we've been not pretending.
I know,
it is real, so.
I know, but it's like, hey, those guys are they actually seem kind of like they believe that. And I'm like, I do believe that. I'm myself believing myself. It's interesting. Anyway, so that's kind of builds confidence for me when I try to do it. I think the biggest episode that I kind of get behind it is some of the technical stuff. Like, we did the EMDR one, we did stuff on REBT, CBT, so rational emotive behavior therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy.
Types of therapy that
different
are
types.
out there, yeah. Those are early episodes.
EMDR, yeah. And stuff that people talk about, like narcissistic personality disorder, like narcissism. Those to me stick out. I feel like we really help people to know, because the problem is if you look back in time, take ADHD for example, there was a whole period of time where they were literally using medication to diagnose whether or not somebody was ADD. I mean, if you took medication and you were better, they would be like, hey, you have ADD. And so then what happened is everybody had ADD. It was and then the next popular one was bipolar. Everybody's bipolar. Now, guess what? Everybody's narcissistic. Everybody's got narcissism. So I like being able to have a way to help the people that are actually struggling with whatever they're struggling with to feel represented by the fact that we're not on the bandwagon. Because if you really were bipolar, for example, and then you're around people that all that they're doing is saying how, oh, that person's bipolar, and this person's sitting there going, I am bipolar, and they do not have this, man. Like, this is...
you don't know anything about that.
You don't
actually struggle with it.
Right, exactly. It's like you're just making up stuff.
You felt happy this morning, and then you got some bad news and then felt sad. And you're like, I'm so bipolar.
Right.
Like, no, you're not. That's not how it works.
So it's like being able to speak to that, I think, is pretty cool.
Yeah. That kind of reminds me... something I think that has been really helpful just out of our, I guess, maybe a surprise, but also something that I was kind of hoping would happen is that as people listen to, oh, sweet, thank you, we're getting some food, awesome. We just got some food delivered. Oh, wait, it's being taken from us. I was so excited. Oh, man. I was like, these people in the table next to us ordered us some food. But nope, they're just taking it.
Nope, they are taking the food. That's fine, because we didn't order food.
I will drink my drink.
We should do that sometime in our life.
No, you were talking about like these episodes about whatever, like
the technical ones.
Yeah, the technical ones. I think I really appreciate that there are subjects out there that people can learn about in a way that is like really accessible to them without feeling shame. I've been told by a lot of people that listen to the podcast that they listen, and there are like really even like heavy subjects. We'll talk about like grief or even the Pavel one. Like people were like, that was heavy, but like heavy. They laughed at the same time.
Yeah.
I think we have this ability to talk about things, educate, but have a good time doing it. That's really digestible and non-threatening. Because there's so many, I don't know, podcasts or channels out there where people are educating you, and it's just like, let me tell you about bipolar disorder. Yeah. Well, first of all, it starts in the brain, and you're like, okay.
That was AM 960.
Right. It's on the AM radio channel. You're like, I didn't even know my car had this.
AM 960, the champ. Yes. We'll be back champing it up for you, the bipolar disorder next.
Exactly.
Sorry. Yeah.
It's like that. We can talk about these things and it's fun, and people listen and they have a good time and they learn something. So it's one of those things where I think when you're talking about like stuff that's really serious, the best thing is like I think of Pavel, like I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but I was just thinking when you're saying that. The thing that's crazy to me about the Pavel episode is he told us, this has changed now. He's probably done 1,000 interviews. He's like, this is the best interview. Yeah. That was nuts. He goes, I'm going to use this interview for my media. I was like, what are you talking about? This dude's insane. And that was the thing is we just had an honest, good, really connection, like a good connection. And I think that's the thing that we want. It's like we want to talk about stuff, but we're just trying to be us. We're trying to be authentic. We're trying to get to the heart of what is going on. And I think that stuff comes across. I think it's really easy to just talk about something, and it might be helpful, but you're not really getting to the heart of it. I feel like you and I both do a really good job of wanting to get to the heart of problems, which is why we're good therapists. We don't just help people feel better about their problems, but we want to really understand what's going on and what do you do about it. Yeah, I want it. So let's see here. Sure. Yeah, and a cheese thing. The cheese stick thing. Curds. Mozzarella stick. Cheese curds. Yeah, whatever. I just had to order something, so that just happened. Curds. Smart. Ranch. Hey, Bob. Sorry, this has been a brief commercial break. Chicken? Yeah. Kind of. We're gonna die. Yeah, so. You're listening live! And we're back! Alright. I think
I was gonna ask you, Aaron, what is something that even I might be surprised to know about you?
About me?
Yes.
Or so something that you don't know about me.
Yeah, and I might, and
So I have to be vulnerable right now
the
on the
zesty.
spot?
Well, maybe.
Tell me your deepest,
I mean,
darkest secret,
I
man.
have one for me if it gets returned. I already thought of it, and it's
Like,
gonna be kind of funny and lame.
I sleep with a snake. Kind of a
Well,
secret.
I
Like
think
what?
we-
I don't know. Give me. What are you talking about? Explain it.
So something that is a little. Let me think of it. Let me say it differently. Let's do it this way. Take the edge off. Think of like a cringe moment in your life. Some kind of cringy moment that you go back and go like, oh, okay, that sucks. Like a kind of other people might say a most embarrassing moment.
So you just want me to.
Either way, you're being
What's
vulnerable.
your most embarrassing moment?
Yeah, I got one that I'm.
For yourself?
Yeah, not for you.
No. I need to. Let me think about that. The one I always go to is like from childhood. It's
Yeah,
like,
that's fine.
yeah, I was like, I don't know, 9 or 10 years old, and I was playing baseball, and I had to go pee, but I asked my coach if I could go, and I was like, I don't know, a couple batters down right, and I was like, I got to run across the field, and like, I'll make it, coach. I can make it, coach. And he's like, nope, you whatever. And I'm like, I really got to go. He's like, nope. So I was like, okay. I get up there, and like, this is, I'm a kid, right? And if you know boys, it's not like they let you know well in advance. They're not like, oh, I eventually need to go. No, it's like, I need to go right now.
Right.
It's happening.
I've just found out I am totally full. Yep.
So I get up there and I'm trying to hold it. I might have swung at one pitch, and maybe when I got up there and swung at one pitch, I realized, nope, this is happening. The bathroom has come to me. So I went right there, and it was just horrifying. I don't.
Did anybody say anything?
There's a period of time from when that happened to when I got in my friend's car and was like changing my clothes that I don't remember. So.
Oh, that was traumatizing. That's called trauma.
Traumatizing. People. Like, I mean, I'm sure stuff happened, but I don't. Like, it was just like,
Yeah.
so busy crying.
Because it was terrifying.
Yeah, terrifying, humiliating, all that kind of stuff. And like I changed in some other clothes, and then like I must have. Like, as I'm telling the story, I'm like, I must have calmed down, because my body's like, okay, I have other clothes on, and I'm away from there. And then I'm like, what just happened? That was real.
Yeah.
So
that
I
would
would
be
say
terrifying.
that was it.
That would be. I'm sitting there thinking, man, I have other ones like that, like in childhood.
Nate has like a whole a list. In fact, let's look at it. He's got a list right here of all of his most embarrassing moments. It's laminated.
I've got one that'll be. So. We got. Okay.
Don't be distracted. Just let it happen.
Let it happen.
Live event. Lots of things are gonna happen.
So we didn't have a lot of money growing up. Like, everything was provided for. It wasn't like I wouldn't say that we were quote unquote like poor, but there were clothes that you wanted to have, and then you wore those clothes. Meaning, like, so I was not the kid.
Like you stole them.
Well, I didn't want to steal them, but I'm just kidding. But I was the kid that we couldn't buy like everything I wanted. So it was more like, if I wanted something, I wouldn't get the name brand. I would get something that kind of was like it.
So you didn't have like Stussy. You had.
I had one shirt.
You had Shoosy.
Yeah.
You didn't have no fear. You had fear.
Yeah. Be afraid. He's coming. Yeah. Oh no. I had a. I was wearing some pants or whatever, and this girl
Old Balance
actually was wearing clothes, so that's a good start.
Yeah, that's true.
And I walked. I don't know what I was doing. I was going out for recess, and this girl that I liked goes, "You always wear the same clothes."
That's
and I was like, okay. And first of all, I didn't know anybody was clothes tracking. Second of all, like, it made sense because I was clothes tracking, so that tracked. But that was super embarrassing. It was. I didn't do it. I just played it. I can't remember what I said, but I played it off. Probably my most embarrassing moment, actually, though, is not that.
So funny enough, actually, I had a client that said that to me one time. It's a similar-ish story. where like they always come in at the same time. Let's just say it was like Thursdays at 2 or whatever. They came in and I try to rotate my clothes where it's like, you know, so I don't wear the same shirt, the same, you know, outfit or whatever on the same day.
I do the same thing.
And like this was years ago, and I actually developed a system in my closet for this reason because this happened.
Of course you did. Probably has a spreadsheet next to the door.
No, it's a whole system. But I think I'd worn the same shirt like 3 weeks in a row or whatever. And they commented like, "Oh, like, do you always? Like, is that the only shirt you own?"
Is this your Thursday shirt?
Yeah,
whatever.
Right, something like that. It's your Thursday shirt. I was like, "No, what do you mean?" And they explained it like, "Well, you always wear this." And I was thinking like, "Oh, I must have been trying to rotate this, but I didn't rotate it well enough, so it always was landing on that day." And I was like, "Okay." So from that moment on, I started a system where I had like the front of my wardrobe and the back of my wardrobe, where if I had worn something, then it goes on the front, and I keep putting clothes on the front, right? So they stack up, and then the front eventually becomes the back, so that like after weeks and weeks and weeks, like I won't have worn the same shirt. Because I was like, I can't keep track of this. I can't keep track. Did I wear this shirt last? I don't know.
Here's the crazy thing.
I just move on.
I actually plan all my shirts too, because I think, oh, did I wear this last whatever? And everybody gives me crap. You guys know this. A lot of you are like,
That's
oh,
true.
You're wearing a Hawaiian shirt again? Yeah, and yes, I am.
Well, they're all Hawaiian. So
yeah, not all of them. I have like 2 that aren't.
Most of them.
Yeah. So, anyways, my probably my worst case scenario. We should end the podcast with this. I'm just kidding. I pooped my pants.
I got my own question. Oh, whoa! Back on up. Back that thing up.
No.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Nope, those are back there.
There's no way I can eat
those
that.
guys right there.
The most gigantic burgers. We need to get those on camera.
Those are ridiculous.
Wow.
Those burgers are ridiculous. I knew that they did that because that was Manny, which is this guy's son. He came up earlier, Dad, can I get the biggest burger that they have in the West Coast?
With his other teenage friend, yeah.
And then they just tried to give them to us. Like,
no,
nope.
I'm not going to eat that on this podcast.
Yeah, that would be weird.
So let's go back to the juicy information. What's that smell?
Hey, everybody.
Well,
David's got a really stinky story to tell.
So I'm delivery driving. And, so I'm delivery driving out in the middle of nowhere. This is like my job that got me through grad school. And let's just say that the thing that everybody's been there, right? If you're listening to this podcast,
delivery
you have
driving?
been here. No, not delivery driving. I was delivering a lot more than.
Yes, that was a giant package that was delivered.
And it's
return to sender.
It's like halfway through the day. I have like 20 stops left to do, and I thought I was gonna be a fart. It wasn't a fart, folks.
No.
And you know what?
More than that.
In my truck, I had to strip down and get rid of the whole thing. And then, of course, I mention it, and still to this day, my wife will be like, "Hey, do you need an extra pair of underwear?" Like, why? Well, just randomly. I just thought you might need one. Because I made the mistake of saying it, that this happened. She's like, "Oh, you should take an extra pair of."
You don't tell a soul when something like that
No, I shouldn't have told a soul. And I told a lot of souls. That actually was kind of dumb.
Now
when you
just
think
told
about
everybody.
it.
Everybody knows.
When you think about it, that doesn't make any sense.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so.
I got my questions.
Oh, crap. I thought we were going to move away from you having a question.
No, I got a question as well. It's kind of more. It's definitely not as like personal as that, but
good.
Here's what I was thinking. When we record, we're trying to keep it PG. We're trying to keep it, kind of within the confines of who we are as a podcast brand and all that kind of stuff. In a certain sense, you and I are like pretty crazy. Just in personality. Oh yeah, food. Thank you,
Gloria.
This is Nathan asking for ranch on his ranch.
Yeah, well, I got ranch on my ranch.
For his ranch. No, it's more like, we're doing the best that we can with what we have. So here's the question. If you had like all the money in the world, like unlimited budget, or you didn't have any fear of like legal recourse, like trademarks or like songs or whatever, like, what are some things that you would want to incorporate to like make the podcast like have more of your personality or just be more entertaining? And I realize, like, in a certain sense, we'd be deviating from what the Strength Thing podcast is. But I know you. I know you're like, oh, it'd be really funny and really like kitschy and whatever. And I'm like, I'm keeping us sort of between the lines.
It's really annoying.
So if there were no lines for you to color in, you could color off the page if you could color inside the book that doesn't have any pictures.
That doesn't have any pictures.
Only words. You were coloring on the pages with words. What would you want to do?
That's an interesting question. I think probably we'd have a studio. I would want to bring people that were well known, and I mean that not as a celebrity necessarily, but for whatever reason, that either would have something to share that they wanted out that was actually like deeply human, or trusted us enough to like process something deeply human. Because I think when people see that we kind of have a common like experience, and I would want them to be well known just because people would be able to identify better, be able to go like, wow, I can't believe that guy struggles with what I struggle with. I think we do that in different shows anyway.
Give me an example of that. What are you thinking?
Like right now, okay, so Justin Timberlake's in the news because he got a DUI, right? Mm-hmm. So if we had a platform...
Justin, if you're watching, first of all, thank you. That's pretty awesome.
Cheers to that. Yeah.
I like your music.
Makes no sense that I just did that. So we do I actually like him as a human being. And I feel bad for him because it's like, I feel like he tries really hard to try to be a good dude. Mm-hmm. And he tries to give back, and he got himself into just a bad spot.
And he's human like everybody else.
Yeah, and I think it would be cool to be able to do an honest platform where we wouldn't hold the punches. You wouldn't like, because here's the other thing. When somebody does a soft serve thing, or like just trying to give somebody the space to say something, it does kind of help, but it doesn't actually help. Like, I would want somebody to like actually get to the meat of what's going on, so people could go like, wow, that was really cool, that's really vulnerable. Because I think at the end of the day, the audience would be like, whoa, this is cool. I think they might be encouraged to be more connected to the people that they know, and maybe more courageous in what they wanted to do. And I think the person that was in there with me talking, like, or with us, we'd both be there in my fantasy, that they would also feel a sense of healing at the same time. And I think there's been moments like that on camera with people. I think Barbara Walters was kind of known to make everybody cry, type of a thing. And there's been other interviewers that have done a good job, so I'm not saying, it hasn't been done. But I think there's a value to that. And I also don't think that it has to be just deep and on the floor of the ocean all the time either, which is why I like how we are able to do kind of humorous things.
So your goal, what you want to do, is to be able to connect with people and provide something that's like helpful, meaningful from other people's lives, that kind of demonstrates to their audience and really just to everyday people that are sort of looking up to these people that, hey, they're a human being just like everybody else. They're really not any different than you or I. They make mistakes, they bleed, they cry, they whatever.
And yeah, people know that, but I think nobody because what we do, right? We're doing this stuff that we do. We're bridging the gap between therapists and clients. Our entire thing is trying to help people understand how to make
between audience and celebrity.
Yeah, well,
bridging the gap.
It's a gap that needs to be bridged.
Between singer and ticket holder.
Well, no, I mean,
I would like to bridge that gap. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Hi, we're doing a podcast that's
it's
bridges
time,
the gap.
We're bridging
Can
a gap.
we have VIP
We would
access?
like to have you bridge our gap for us with lots of something that bridges it. I think what I'm getting at is like, if people we're trying to help demystify the humanity of what's going on. Everybody's in the same spot. I mean, it's a little easier when somebody's pretty well known and realize that they're really a human being. And to be honest, I think after that, it actually helps them. I mean, not just like in their humanness, but also, I mean, they would be potentially a lot more popular actually when people realize, like, holy mackerel. There'd be people that honestly were maybe not as well, like maybe they're in the middle as far as knownness. I could see them going, like, when people feel like they know them, people want to know more, they want to connect. But that's the question. I mean, I'm just answering what you're saying.
Yeah.
And you can't instantaneously get there. So in my fantasy, I can all of a sudden buy a studio, and then I'm well known, and I can do it.
That was actually a lot more in depth than I was expecting. When I thought about this, I was like, you would want to like have like a little monkey that plays the cymbals or something, something sort of kitschy.
I knew it would be something like that.
Or like somebody who's on a switchboard, and every time you say something, they go, like make the funny noises or whatever.
Yeah.
So like make it more slapstick.
I'm not quite 11 years old. Actually, slapstick. I'm sorry for that big, huge lip smack that I just did. That was crazy.
I don't think anybody heard it except you.
Well, that's good because I heard it. Okay. What I'm wondering is if you could reiterate anything that we've kind of tried to get out there, what would it be? What would be something that you're like, you know what? I hope what people have caught is this, whatever this is. Like thematically or...
I gotta come back to like my favorite shirt that we have, one of my favorite sayings, which is you are the biggest problem in your own life. Like everything comes back to you. Like it's amazing how many times people are coming in and they're talking about relationship situations, they're talking about work situations, they're talking about whatever, and it's like, oh, this person did this and that person did this, or my partner did that, or my kids, whatever, and it's like, yeah, but you're the common denominator. Like that's the thing. It's really, really, yeah, it's difficult, it's challenging to get people to be aware of or to think about that. But I say that not to shame people, not to make them feel bad, but to empower. If you could realize that you are the biggest problem in your life, then the other side of that coin is true, which is you have the ability to change everything in your life. Which doesn't mean that you can always change your circumstances, but you can change your attitude, you can change your responses, you can change your mindset, you can change your habits and how you're engaging all of that. That is incredible. Like, another part of that would be, I was having a conversation with a friend the other night, and we're talking about how like she had just like picked up some sort of like a trainer or a coach or whatever, and for a month I think she's done this workout or just this diet thing, and lost a bunch of weight and realized, wow, I'm like capable of so much more. And it's everything that she was saying was essentially like, wow, my problems are mine, and life is hard either way. You get to choose the hard that you want, right? It's hard to be lazy. It's hard to be active. It's hard to be, like, this is the saying that I had heard, like, it's hard to be overweight. It's hard to be fit. It's hard to be divorced. It's hard to be married. Choose your hard. All of these things are going to be hard. So once you can get over that life is hard, right? And that you have the ability to overcome that just with your own mindset, your own habits, your own discipline, or whatever. If you can take responsibility over that, your life will get infinitely better. And I would say, in a certain sense, infinitely easier as well. It's not like life itself gets easier, but like the muscle that you have to engage life just becomes so much stronger. So I'm off my soapbox. I'm pretty passionate about that. That's what I want people to get.
Right, because until you do that, you don't have any ownership. Because you actually could. You can only influence what you can influence. It makes sense.
And you are the only thing you can influence.
Right, you can't make somebody else. And
that's right.
So I'm going to ask you.
I've been trying to make Nathan be funny for like years, and it still hasn't happened.
Okay, that was a bomb that just got dropped. I feel sad in my heart.
It's the 200th episode. We got to let it all out.
Yeah.
I finally could tell somebody.
I already told you I let it all out earlier.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so I'm gonna answer this question, but I'm also and I'm gonna give it to you after that. There is something that, like, in our podcast, like, I use a lot. So that's kind of the question: is what is it that we might use a lot of different subject matter that we've done, that type of thing. Like, what do we refer to? I refer to the internal family systems thing all the time because I'm trying to explain to clients what IFS is, which is episode 50, because I say it literally all the time. EMDR, I refer to that all the time because of trying to help with clients know, because here's the deal, and this is to other therapists out there. We tell people what these things are. You do not have to explain to your clients what these things are, because then you're wasting time inside the therapy room. So the thing that I do use a lot is the episode that you are responsible to someone but not for them. And I'm not sure what Aaron's looking up right now. But at any rate, that is huge. And when people understand the difference between being responsible to versus being responsible for, it is a serious game changer.
163.
163. So yeah, because you're not responsible for other people's emotions, right? Aaron was kind of talking about that. It's a you problem, right? Like you can deal with your own self. And people, I think, don't really get that is a baseline problem. And it's so simple. And, I think of going through grad school and having all these, you see all these self-help books and everything out there. Then after a while as you go through grad school, you start like not caring about them. And you kind of like, okay, I don't care. Like, those books are kind of like surface level. But then after you do this for a while, you're like, well, that's kind of all there was. And those books are simple for a reason. That things are actually kind of simple as far as what you need to change.
You can dress them up. You can add complexity to it. I got to tell this story because it's kind of funny. I had this client. He was a diagnosed narcissist, right? Actual. And but he was like very, very intelligent, very good at what he did. And I remember he was like working for a startup company and like doing some engineering of this product or whatever. And he was describing how they had like limited resources for this thing. And so they created this product that really needed a lot more resources, but they didn't have any, or they didn't have enough. And so he called it a turd. You would appreciate this, right? He was like, this thing is a turd. This is like Nathan's favorite word here. But this thing that he had created, it was a turd. And then his boss comes around and is like, oh, we need to like whatever, blah, blah, make it better, whatever. And he's like, okay, we can dress it up and put a tuxedo on it, but it's still going to be a turd in a tuxedo, right? It's like, I guess it makes me think of that because it's like, you can complicate things, you can add things to it, right? But the simplicity of it is like, it's still a turd underneath it all. Like, it's still what it is. It's as simple as it is. If you allow things to be simple, you will see through the complexity, through the details, the weeds of it, to see like what's its basic essence and deal with it. And life is, I think, also like, I don't know the soapbox here, but it's as simple as that if you make it that simple.
Right. Yeah. Is there? I know you're spinning off of what I was saying. Is there any particular, I don't know, some subject matter that we have done that you find yourself kind of like using in your practices, or particular episodes that you might refer to?
Not really. It's actually it's a lot of them, really. I keep track of, like, I got a note on my phone that, I update it every week with the newest episode, with all the description, episode number, link to it's super organized. Shocker. But, so that's the thing that I might be talking to somebody and they might tell me a subject matter, or we're getting into something like, oh, I want to learn more about this. And I'm like, well, it's funny you should mention that because we actually have a couple of episodes on that. And so I'll just pull that thing out and then reference that episode. So I guess I wouldn't say that I do any one.
So you literally pull out a sheet or something
on my phone? Yeah, I pull it up and I'm like, oh, it's this episode.
I don't do that.
And so I probably share all kinds of episodes. I was talking to somebody today that was saying that she's probably listened to like 50 episodes, and I was like, wow,
that's insane.
That's impressive. We have 150 more.
Oh my word!
Haven't heard. I was like, so hurt and disappointed.
And back to our narcissistic episode.
It was like, you've only listened to 50? Wow. That's like a quarter of them. That's like a very low number.
That is a quarter of them. That is so freaking weird. So I think maybe as we probably should head for home, I think, but maybe as we're doing that, what do you see for the future? What do you see for, I don't know, like, and
Flying
I don't,
cars.
Yeah, what's that?
Flying
Flying
DeLoreans.
cars, flying DeLoreans. Yeah. Michael Jackson's gonna be there. Michael J. Fox. Holy mackerel. Either way.
This is my vision for the future. Hoverboards, DeLoreans that fly. Is that your question?
No.
Oh, okay.
As far as, I feel like, what do you feel like our focus should be? Like, meaning like the kind of the cone that you want to put on my head and direct me, or as you said earlier, like almost an hour ago now.
Not that kind of cone.
Not
I was
that-
like, a
yeah.
dunce cap?
Yeah, no. Like as far as just general, like obviously I'm putting this on Aaron right now. He had no idea that I was going to ask him this. And the dude wants to always be so specific, so his brain's probably melting right now. So
Yeah, I like to be prepared.
yeah.
Let's see. Okay, let's say this. I love the work that we're doing in helping clients, the general population, with some of these mental health things. And obviously it's really good, I think, for therapists as well. Like some of the feedback I got from someone is that she's just getting back into the field of therapy. And she was like, this is really encouraging, really helpful. So I guess it would be, and you've been talking about this a lot recently, is like, I want to aim some of what we're doing toward that side of things as well. So obviously we're bridging the gap between clients and therapists. So I'm focusing on the therapist side of things because it does benefit the clients out there, right?
Right.
So I guess that would be it, is focusing on the vision I see is helping therapists be better therapists, being more intentional about dealing with things that they struggle with or that they could easily overlook or that they might not be good at, or just like this person this morning was just giving feedback about like, I want to know how you think about these issues, or how do you process, what's your ethical process that you go through to figure out like the process you go through to figure out like ethical issues or whatever. How do you deal with spirituality in a session? How do you de-escalate when somebody, whatever, just it's like those kinds of things benefit indirectly the clients that we want to serve, right? But they're through the therapist. And so I think in a large sense, I've kind of maybe forgotten that over the first 200 episodes. So maybe over the next 200 episodes, we'll focus more on that. But I appreciate that you brought that to the table, because I think it really has balanced our focus.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think if we can, a lot of the younger therapists, when we really got into this, is the idea of identifying, right? So it's like, we found out actually a few months ago that there are grad schools that have their grad students listen to some of our episodes, which is weird. I'm not sure totally how they're doing it, meaning like I don't know how the assignments work or anything like that, but I was contacted by a professor who was like, hey, FYI, I'm having my students listen to your episodes because I think they're really solid and they just want to encourage you. That was really cool. So I think focusing, you brought up the ethical thing that we do get as therapists a lot of questions in the background that I think actually the general audience, the people that are not therapists, would be really interested in, of like, yeah, how do you even deal with some of that? Like on the surface, it seems like, oh yeah, you would just say this. But I think when you heard us talking about it, you would also find out really quick just how nuanced everything is and how complicated it is. It is not straightforward, and I think that may make some of you out there a better client, and some of you therapists like challenge you a little bit to think like, wow, that's cool. Maybe not feel as alone in some ways. Like, oh, I kind of thought that would just be a hard thing for me to deal with. And so I agree. I think that that's a cool thing that we should do moving forward, as far as like maybe focusing a little bit more on, for lack of a better word, the clinical things. That sounds really boring, but
I think we need a different word for that, for sure, because to me, even
super
if it's
therapist-y things.
Even if it's going to be for a therapist, I'm like, and this is why I think we have the Shrink Think podcast, is because I don't want it to sound clinical. I don't want it to sound boring. I don't want people to hear it and be like, snoozy. I don't want to listen to that. It's like, it needs to be relatable, because I think as real people doing real work that affects real people's lives, I think we need to say it in a certain way, talk about things that are relevant, but also in a way that's relevant, in a way that makes people want to listen or that they can hear it.
Yeah. So closing up, in conclusion, we've had a lot of fun. We've enjoyed doing what we're doing. It's pretty cool. Kind of privileged. Obviously, you should go to shrinkthink.com/swag and buy all kinds of swag. We're trying to wear it right. Hey, look, I got the Fear one on right now. Check it out.
Solid.
And if you have any ideas about episodes, email Aaron at shrinkthink.com. Just because, let's be real, I suck at email.
It's true.
If you're my client, you know.
He doesn't even receive them.
I've received 4 emails. There's nothing wrong with my technology. I've received other. Anyways.
Do you have an iPhone? Maybe it's because you don't have an iPhone.
Oh, my Lord. All right, everyone. With that, have a great day.